elephant tracking energizer kind of a thing at a cost of about 1/3 cost of a similar system available in other countries. A pilot one, a test fence has already been built in Vilpattu. And
Smart Recharge Bonanza from Mobitel. Dial #151# to enter.
socio-political aspect that we need to look at as well. So for example, how to maintain these kind of things, these kind of, you know, these fences and things like that. They are lightweight kind of fences.
So what is exactly the fundamental on which this is operating, this human-elephant conflict, the fence?
Yeah.
How does this address this situation?
It's kind of a system, a wired one, a lightweight kind of a wired one, which actually when an elephant touches the wire, it can immediately give a kind of a, you know, energize in the send a shock to the elephant. Right, elephant does not get killed, but it's just a shock, and the shock is immediately generated, that kind of a thing. It's not just a normal grid, it is a system which develops that kind of a shock system, which is powered by the either solar or with the grid power. Now when we introduce that kind of a system, it needs maintenance. Now maintenance, coordination and things like that. So we need to have the wildlife departments and the community support and the support from the politicians and things like that. So I think the problem is that again the ecosystem that we talked about, it is not just that the technology, but everybody, all the stakeholders in that should take the responsibility, should be aligned. So we, from our part, we develop these kind of technologies and then we implement them, test it, and then we need to collaborate with the others to make sure that it provides a solution for a serious problem that we have.
So in this particular context, do you get the support from all the other key stakeholders like the government and the national geography or the wildlife department and all of them? Are they coordinating, and who is taking the initiative to take the project forward?
I think it is the wildlife department which really needs and which is responsible for these kind of things. I think the commitment is there by words and things like that, but then when you have other stakeholders like that, you know, poor people in these kind of areas and things like that, their commitment for this kind of a thing and communication when there's a problem to communicate that and all that, it takes some time to, you know, to get those kind of ideas. So I don't think at the moment we get the full support. We have other problems, issues, not only the technology. Probably with time, with the education, with the commitments by the government and the wildlife department, I think probably we will be able to find a solution.
So I guess this is also an example of the university contributing to a national cause,
Exactly.
a national project.
Exactly.
So Professor, what are the other national projects like this maybe?
Okay, let me continue with some of the examples of electronics again. Now, when we talked about electronics, we also concentrate more on biomedical engineering aspects, and you know, things like, you know, glucometer testing, electronic gadgets to measure the brain waves and things like that, you know, to support the biomedical aspects a lot. And if you consider, electronics can really enhance you know, the diagnostic and treatment kind of things and quite a lot of things. So in that context, the University Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering has developed the glucometer and you know, various other kind of safety wheelchairs, and you know, those kind of wheelchairs are extremely safe, and you know, with the electronics, the automatic control, the robotics, and you know, like things like you know, pumps and valve systems where you can actually provide massages and things like that for the patients in different kind of typical systems. And we do this one in collaboration with medical faculties and things like that. So lots of these research projects are supervised jointly by the engineers and the doctors, and you can imagine when the engineers and the doctors get together to supervise. So we truly have a multidisciplinary approach, and that is how the knowledge and the solutions really developed.
So now these examples you talk about, like the wheelchairs and the safety measures and all that, are these also commercial projects that have they been commercialized, or just developed and going into the phase where people can start consuming and using those?
Some of the things that we have come out with, we are just about to obtain patents, and they are actually breakthroughs in that kind of a thing. Breakthroughs, you can say, even in the world. And but we cannot disclose all these things because of the non-disclosure agreements that we have entered into some of the supporters and things like that. But when it comes to commercialization, as you know, perhaps you know, from the research, development, piloting and commercialization. So the university actually cannot bring right to the end of the commercialization, because university's role is basically, you know, development and things like that, and maybe testing and all. There should be another partner who should actually support that, and that is, you know, we need to actually make a joint venture, or you know, somebody coming out at the middle. So that is where we consider about the education, R&D, and you know, research and development institutions like ITI, maybe that is Industrial Technology Institute, or NERD Center, National Engineering Development Center, or anybody else who actually can support development of a product, you know, to be able to commercialize. So that little edge, you know, development is a must to make sure that it is it can be commercialized. So what happened most of the time in the universities, sometimes if we don't go that one step ahead, we stop research halfway through, and which actually have a lot of potential for commercialization.
But then it is not fully realized.
It's not fully realized, unfortunately, yes. And that is what we need to actually, I mean, when you have a good ecosystem and you have a middle player, he will pick up from the university, and then you have another partner which can, you know, commercialize these kind of activities.
So it's like passing the baton in the
Exactly,
relay.
exactly.
And I guess the operating word is also the ecosystem that has to be functioning,
Sure.
so that we also see an end in the process where the potential can be fully realized.
Sure.
So coming back to the previous question, before we go to the other departments,
Right.
the elephant-human conflict reminded me of the national project.
Things, yes.
So what are the other such projects the university must have contributed to?
When you consider national projects, I think we contributed by providing solutions. We contribute by developing policies and support for implementation and things like that. If you consider some of the projects that we can support through technology development is something like, okay, solid waste management, solid waste treatment, and you know, the technologies are available in other countries, but they're expensive. And also we need to come out with technologies which are suitable for our tropical climates and our social behavior and how people actually treat their waste and things like that. So, I mean, we are doing quite a lot of research together with the the Central Environment Authority to come out with technologies to, you know, overcome these kind of national problems in that context. And that is just a solution in that sense. And then when you consider about the energy aspects, and we talked about the mini hydro and things like that. And then lots of our staff members also work in institutions which actually make policy. Say for example, like the Public Utilities Commission. 2 of our staff members were the Director Generals of those kind of institutions. And then we have Professor Mal Kumarge, who is actually the chairman of the National Transport Commission. And he has contributed immensely on transportation aspects, the traffic, you know, feasibility studies, control systems and things like that. We have a similar branch in the Civil Engineering Department supported by Professor Saman Bandara. And when we have any kind of a major highway planning project, about the feasibility, about the planning, about the capacity developments, and you know, that expert advice is given by the university together with this with the other, you know, line ministries and things like that.
So I guess this comes under the Department of Transport and
Right.
Logistics, maybe?
Yeah, Professor Mal Kumarge is actually the head of the Department of Transport and Logistics Management. When we talked about the transport and logistics, which is another direction, which is in fact very related to engineering, and it's an engineering faculty, but it doesn't provide an engineering degree. It is a Bachelor of Science degree in Transport and Logistics Management. And that is again very, very important area. When you talked about the logistics, when we talked about that, you have the, okay, logistics in any system, you know, like a value chain, like, you know, if you consider, you know, transport, we have the rail transport, we have the maritime transport, we have the air transport, public transport, road transport and all that. And then any kind of a production system, we have the supply chain management kind of concepts. And so this is the department which provides all the expertise in that. And that degree was started with the request by the industry, and there is